Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this webinar on what's new in Revit 2020 and updates. My name is Niranjan. This webinar we are scheduling almost at the end of this year when the 2020 product is there in the market, and we are covering the complete updates and new features we had on Revit 2020. We had Revit update 0.1, 0.2, which was recently released. So I wanted to show all the updates and features that we had so far with Revit 2020. With this webinars, which is coming in this month, will be the last of our Revit 2020 webinar. Future on, we will be pushing on next coming month. We will be showcasing the next release, which will once we receive those update as well. So this session for the next 40 to 50 minutes, around 50 minutes, we'll have include all the features that were included in 2020, and this is mostly going to be a complete list overview. In case if you feel any topics that you kinds of interest you, you can put a mark on the Q&A or a chat box. We'll go through that, and in case if some of the topics are really interesting and you wanted to take it further, you can connect back to us, and we can have a separate dedicated session only for those features together. So meanwhile, I believe you're all on mute, but in case if you wanted to raise any questions or you wanted to ask anything, use the Q&A or a chat box. You have an option to raise hand as well, but I would suggest use the chat box, which will help us take these questions at the end and answer as much as possible. I would strongly recommend you, when you are putting a question, do and you wanted to have some detailed information about that, do provide us the contact so we can get in touch with you again. So let's get started with this. So 2020 Revit has been a load of improvement and enhancements that has been included in this. So if you see the list that includes that, let's have a, a good improvement over the connectivity feature within the Revit. Create, we say something that helps us model or develop our design, the capabilities to do and design that. So second one, the third one is the optimize, which is the improvement on the features that we add on. So if you see, there has been a tremendous amount of feature as well as connect and create capabilities that was included in Revit, including the connectivity through BIM 360 environment, use of PDF in Revit, support to third-party files like SketchUp and other things. And then we have a lot of good modeling capabilities, including tag and dimensioning, steel connections, multi-rebar annotations, and so on. And apart from that, some of the optimizations were path to travel, a more improved view filters, including OR and filters that has been added up, enhancements to add dynamo scripting for steel and other nodes which have been included in Dynamo. And these improvements really helps us add those add and make these files easier to make Revit easier to use in our day-to-day basis. So let's take these features one by one. So let's first talk about the core enhancements that Revit has gone through. The first one, as I said, is the PDF insert in Revit. So these PDF inserts allows you to bring PDF file, and there are a lot of features that it allows you to insert PDF into Revit, and it also enables you to make PDF converted into Revit much easier. So if we have to see, this is a very simplified structure where we have a insert PDF under the insert tab. When you open this files, you get the PDF with all the pages that are included if it's a multi-page PDF, and it is controlled under manage image tab. So you will see along with your images of PDFs also getting listed under manage image. It has the add and reload options. You can also load it from your BIM 360, set the path as absolute or relative. And while inserting, you also have an option to select a specific page only from the entire multi-sheet PDF and load it. Now, when you see these properties, it has a width, height, page number that has been loaded with the file location, and it also has a resolution that it is using, which you can change it. And once it is inserted, it gives you all the features that Revit has to offer, like copy, scale, rotate, move, and you can really adjust it and use it under your schedule also. So this is an added benefit. And if the PDF has a vector information, you can enable snapping that will allow you to snap to those lines and convert them into a line or a model. For here you are seeing I'm converting those lines into a wall. So similarly, you can add this through BIM 360. You can add and change resolutions of that, and it makes working with PDF in Revit way easier with these tools capabilities. So this is one of the tools that has been quite in demand, and it's been added in Revit 2020. Now, seeing other connectivity issues is the capability of Revit to communicate through BIM 360 platform. Now, you have seen BIM 360 being used, so mostly you have more of a cloud collaboration using work sharing environment, but now we also support not only just the uh, uh, collaboration, but also you can just simply save a non-work sharing file on that. And once we have this model, you can publish this model directly from your main screen instead of taking it through cloud managing option under Revit part. And we also have an option, if in case you do not have a file which has a work sharing environment, you can just simply save that file onto cloud as a non-work sharing and use it as a storage. So this will help you access your file from anywhere, anytime. So in case if you have team members located at different location, or if they have to access file from remote location, maybe from home, they can work on their file by keeping that file on that. Now quickly show you how this thing works. If you have the Revit model, now you will see on your recent front page, you will see the first is all the files and the families, but here you are going to see the BIM 360 platform. And for that, you must need to have signed in to get access to that. And here you can see all those projects where you have access. You will see them getting listed. And when you click onto that, you will see all the projects that been added up. Now here you will see when you have to work or open a file, you just simply go on to that particular folder, select the project files, and you can open the file from the project folder. It is so easy that when you have a work shared file, you can select directly from here, and if in case it has not been published latest, you can select multiple file and publish them directly from here. So it's a much easier option over here. Now when you go into a recent file or something like that, there are multiple ways which you can connect to that. So in case if you have a file which is there, which you wanted to initiate a cloud model, and it's not, if it is not a work shared model, say for example, like I create a file which is completely new, and if this file I need to save and start from cloud, I can also go and say file save as under cloud model. And in this case, I need not go and enable a collaboration through this. So it could be a pure file which I'm just opening and saving, and I'm saving it in cloud. The difference between so this, when I save this as a cloud model, this is the option when I get to choose both the plan and the project folders for my BIM 360. Now, if in case you're new to that, so if I quickly show you what that thing is, so when you go into your doc platform, so this is accessed through your Internet Explorer, or probably you can access even from your mobile phone. So probably we'll go in detail in another session which we have planned on BIM 360 collaboration and other. So you are going to see that you will have a plan folder and project folders where you can keep that file. So when you are accessing it through file save as option, and when you go into your project, so there you can see both plan and project file as well. So you can choose to save this file anywhere, and same way you can use the file recent option to open the file from anywhere. However, there is also another option which we have added is you can just simply go and save this as a project. Now, while saving that and you wanted to save it on your cloud work sharing, all you need to do is get yourself Autodesk desktop connector, the thing that you see here. It is available on our web page to download, and once it gets download, what it does is under your My Computer, it gives you these two icons. So when you go into BIM 360, you will see all your projects, and under these projects you will see uh, the projects that you have created. So say for example, I go over here, but here the challenge is it will only list down project folders with the desktop connector. So if you're using project folders, you can use your desktop connectors to open an access file. But if in case your files are on a plan folder, I would recommend you use either file save to cloud, or while using your recent one, use the BIM 360 uh, recent app to open this plan project from the plan folder. So that's how you can access it to use that. So these are some of the tips that you can use, but it really helps us control the cloud model. Now the benefit of this is we get to save our file on a shared location, and we can access file anytime anywhere, whether it's a work shared environment or a non-work sharing environment. Now let us see the support option. Now we support SketchUp 2018 and 19. So initially when we started with Revit 2020 in last year, we came up with SketchUp 2018, and with the version 0.01 we started supporting Revit SketchUp 2019 function also. So it's very easy now. So if you have your SketchUp model, all you have to do is you just select the link CAD or import CAD option, and you have the SketchUp file option. And once you bring that, you get not just the model, but also the texture and color composition that is defined on that. And it will create a shared SketchUp color option under your library, which will help you identify which colors are imported from SketchUp. So much easier, you can have a SketchUp model imported with ease with the model information, as well as the texture information and the color combo that you are used. The other uh, updates includes elliptical walls. This is we can now able to draw elliptical walls, and ability to change its type, center location, and switch type easily for that. Now it's fairly very easy to use that. So now what we have is an elliptical option that you see on when you click onto your wall, insert wall, and those features now allows you to add wall. Now once you add the wall, it is completely up to your control, like which wall type, including the curtain panels. If you prefer to use it, you can define materials, you can define the panels spacing, and it can be taken out for rendering as well. So it's much easier to draw complex shapes with wall. You can use it directly with elliptical walls as well. The other major enhancement include path to travel. Now, this is an automated method by which you can define how much time it will consume moving from one point to another, and with a set speed of say 3 kilometers per hour, a walking speed. And it can also identify the obstacles that are defined. So you can mark door as a passage, which is not an obstacle. So it really work out through the passage, through the door, and locates the part of it. So here you can see in this example, it is under your analysis tab where you have the path to travel option, and all you need to define are the two location where you want these paths to travel. So it will automatically identify the closest path, and it takes the speed as 3 kilometers per hour and tells you the distance. Now there are a lot of things that you can extract out from here. So these are the values you can see. It has the speed, it has the level, it has the distance, which can be taken out on your schedule tab. And now in case if you really want to understand the path to travel, the distance between these two, you can create filters and say those which are greater than say 80 feet, which takes more than 3 minutes to highlight those in reds. So you really understand in this particular floor plan, the nurse station to some of the patient's room, how much time it takes. And then you have the route analytics analysis settings where you can define the top and bottom level. We have a detail and a explanation of what the top and bottom looks like. And then you can also specify which are the obstacles, which are not. So specifically I'll say doors are not an obstacle, so that's the place where it can pass through. So you can see all the paths have been taken through the doors over here, and it takes the shortest available possible route for that and list me down the path to travel. Quite an interesting tool to have from. And this path to travel with 20.1 is now also included under some of the nodes that are available for dynamos. So dynamo nodes have been created called as path of travels by floor plan points and path of travel.update, which now helps you to automate those things directly in dynamo. The next another feature that we have is improved OR in view filters. Now we can add multiple or filters or and filters for selecting elements. We can use multiple categories or type properties to filter, to add the filter rules. And that is also again very simple. So in this large project, if I wanted to identify the walls which are like say 6 feet tall and whose lengths are also 6 feet. So here I can say wall which is which width is 6 inches and wall with length more than 6 feet. So here you can see it will list down all and I can mark them as red. So with multiple or features on the filter, I can really list down my walls with multiple categories. So more than one properties I can list down. So it helps me filter out things much easier with more than one properties included on that. Now, there has been an improvement on material appearance. You will see a high quality, optimized and realistic image rendering. And these images, these material categories have more filters in terms of filters to project, filters to material class, and each materials have a bigger 256 by 256 thumbnail to have a nicer experience and understanding of the color before applying to that. So these have been added, and then we also have an improvement on image and PDF. So we bring in image. We also have a control over the scale and the resolution DPI that we can have it. So as you can see under your manage image, you get the option to include PDF as well as image on that, which we have seen just now. But these paths that you see here, I can not only just use an absolute or relative path, but I can also use a BIM 360 path over here. So here you can see a width, height, resolution all being mentioned over there. So I can bring my BIM 360 cloud model and also change my paths from absolute to relative at any time. And when I'm using this, I have an option to control resolution, scale, and other things, and it gives me a realistic presentation of that. I can set the scale vertical and horizontal and apply to that without losing the quality of that image or PDF that I'm using. So quite an enhancement in terms of using these two features. Now, another quick, small, but quite helpful in terms of using a Revit platform is the use of edit scope box parameter. So scope box that you see here is now being able to list under your view list category. So view list schedule, you can add that and change it. Now how this work is a very simple, like if you have a project model where you're using a lot of scope box and you wanted to assign it to a specific sheet or a view, you can do it from your view list directly. So you don't have to go to that view and set that view list, but you can just directly do it from your view list schedule and change that. And you see, it makes it really very simple for me to control my scope box directly from the view list over here. Now, other things are like the legends that we add onto the sheet can be copied. So you can copy legend from one sheet to another. It gives you a copy option, and you can paste it aligning to any of the current views on the other sheet as well. A much easy and convenient way. Another feature on the core enhancement is creating part from an imported geometries like IFCs and other. It's a very uh, interesting that if we can bring in an IFC model onto our project, we have an ability to create parts directly from there. It behaves like a Revit entity, and it can be converted into parts like you can see here, which I can really utilize in my Revit. So parts which are mostly used many times in Revit, I can use on an IFC model as well. So, and good enhancement. So if I'm bringing model from a third party softwares using an IFC import or something like that, I can really convert that into part and use it further. And some of the few small enhancements that you will constantly see is wall attachment to roof, wall attachment to floor. So at most of the time it will ask you, would you like to attach to the roof or would you attach to the floor? And you have an option to do not show this message or show this message on that. So makes it easier to what you prefer generally, and you can set that rule to you. Another one is when you import a project, a linked project. So if that project is coming from uh, another Revit file, it will bring in and it will expose the survey point and the project base of that particular linked model also. So it's quite useful when you are working on link model and you want to see what is the survey point and base project base used on that project compared to the one that you are currently working. It's much easier. It's fairly easy. When you have this link model, you will see that particular project model, linked project base and survey point listed over here. To see that, you just need to enable the survey point under your visibility graphics options to view it on that. Another one is the Dynamo update. Now, Dynamo updates are linked with your Revit. So you don't have to update Dynamo separately. It's a part of your Revit update. As soon as you update your Revit, it updates your, it has an update for Dynamo, and it does not have any impact on the other Dynamo Studio that is installed on your machine over here. And rows schedule, these are small enhancements which I'm kind of listing it because it kind of makes it much easier for us to work on your daily life. So say for example you have this schedule, so any of these schedules you have something called a strip. So what it allows is if you have so many schedule, you wanted to actually list down a different color for that, you can see it highlights it in different color. And whenever I select any of these, you can see it kind of highlights the entire row of that. So kind of easy for me. If my list is really long, I can scroll that and see the highlighted lines to understand what is the which row I have selected. Other thing is he has a freeze header option. So when you use that, it scrolls down. You can see the headers always remain freeze. So I have an option to always keep my header freeze. So you have these options that been added. So earlier it used to just scroll down there, but you don't have never used to see that. You have to come back and see the header. But for large schedules, whichever comes in, freeze headers and probably enabling the strips will really help us review these things much easier. So coming back into our presentation, these were some of the core enhancement that Revit has gone through last year. It's not only just the feature, but also how it interact with other tools, as well as using cloud as a central storage. Now, coming into a structural enhancements, there has been a great improvement on the structure side that we have. The first one is the rebar improvement that we see. So it has improved snapping and when you say constraints and linear and free form rebars, there has been a tremendous improvement on how the rebars performs on that. Now let's take this scenario on any of our modules. So say for example, I take up a simple structure. Now there has always been a question of how do we enable reinforcement on a very complex shape or geometry, and some of the complex shape that Revit wasn't able to handle earlier was a curved surface or a silo or a ramp that used to go. Now it's much more easier. So let's take reinforcement examples that allows us. So you can start with either architectural or structure. Say I have a slab, and say I have a curved slab over here, and what I'll do is I'll set a 10 feet offset, and what I'm doing is I'm creating a curved slab over here. So there you can see I have a curved slab which is placed under my second floor. I'll just make it as, let's move my this thing to level 1. So there is my slab. Now to make it a little bit complex, what we'll do is we'll select that and edit this edge to 10 feet, right? So now you see, I'll disable the analytics. So now you see I have a ramp SD which is going from level 1 to level 2. I can actually create the parapets and other things, but now you see here I have a ramp which needs to be done a reinforcements for, and this was a bit of a trick, but now you see how easily Revit really understand for doing a reinforcement for such complex genre. So now with the freeform you can reinforce a curved surface, and you'll see in my 3D option I get this rebar option highlighted. When I click onto this, it gives me option freeform and aligned. You see it doesn't give me that whole old method of perpendicular to frame or parallel to frame, but now it's a two option, align and surface, sorry, freeform and align. So there are two things. When I select for freeform rebar, I get an option to align it to a surface, or I can align it to a sorry, align or have a surface. I'll show you what is the difference between these two. Now, when I opt for a free form, and say, for example, I've specifically taken this example because this is where I have to take align as well as surface, both the option, and I'll tell you how. So align means if I have a path which is going, and I have to do a rebar which is aligned to this curve, but it's parallel to this surface that you see here, like how you have seen this image over here, right? Now in this case, like say for example I take an alignment, I'll say let this be a host. So you can see it's asking me to select the host. I select this host, and then next thing is asked is for the path. So I'll say this curve thing is my path. Now you see how when I say finish, how it is placing the rebar. It's actually placing it exactly on the surface of that particular plane. And now when I select this and put that as fixed number or something like that, it is going to expand on the surface that you see here, right? Now this is the way, like you can see, I'll say this happens when I choose to have a freeform rebar aligned to a face. Now if I have to do a rebar on this direction, right, on the length of it, so at this stage my rebar needs to be in a 3 dimension, like starting from here it goes all the way up over here, and it should follow this curve. So when I try to select this, so when I select onto that, you get these arrow keys, right? Now to expand this, I can stretch it across, right? Now same way, like I wanted to stretch the rebar from this edge to that edge, so that will be my stretching for rebar, and the laying is something on this offset. So for that, what I need to do is I need to use the surface option here. Now you see the options completely change. Now it has the start surface, whereas it first asked me to select the host. So I'll select the host, which is this bottom one, and then it asks to start the surface. Now start and end is like where I want the rebar to start and end. That is when I stretch the spacing. That spacing will define within this area. So I'll select start here, and then I select end probably on this side. So when I say finish, you see there is a rebar that has been added here. That's the curve. And now I can go here and say fixed number. Just to show us, I'll make it a 6. So now you see the reinforcement has been added up over here. So I can go on to that, select the filter, select the rebar, and set it to show on 3D. So now you can see these are the rebars that has been added on the surface, and these are nothing but like your regular rebars. So if you go and set the scale, when you wanted to set the hook conditions at start, at end, you can see it places that. So it really helps me place complex reinforcements geometry much easier and to any complex surface. So much easier to handle reinforcement in my Revit 2020 with all the features. Now there are certain things which we have really improved is the support for Dynamo in Revit. Now Dynamo will help us bring a lot of automation uh, in Revit. Now let us see one of the simple example here. So say if we wanted to create a complex frame structure, we can use the Dynamo script like you can see here to create our profile of the frame structure. In this case, it's a barrack or a shed that we are doing. We can define how the purlin and the bracing are defined, how the spacing that has been worked out. And this, when we are doing, I generally recommend we keep our uh, uh, Dynamo in a manual method so that it does not create that same thing in the Revit. So this is the easiest way, like keep it manual and do a Dynamo scripting and run it manually to check how it goes. So here we can also define on the profile which category of my steel structures to be used over here. So I can run this manually and see that reflect back in my Revit. Much easier to do it in advance so that I can use those Dynamo script later to any of the other projects as well. Now, once I have these models with me, what we also added is a Dynamo node. So if you have a model with you, you can use Dynamo Player to directly run those Dynamo nodes. Say, for example, a base plate. You just select the models, it will automatically identify where this will work. Say in this case, Apex Haunch, I wanted to put it on this model. I select the whole model, it will ask me which Apex font I have to use. And once I define that, it automatically identifies the right joint where it will fit in, and it will place that on these. So you can see it makes modeling as well as detailing much easier with use of Dynamo on that. The other enhancement that you see under uh, Revit is the use of precast options. Now this really uh, adds a lot of value to this, because now we can convert our design into a precast ready model and even take it for precast to any CNC machines output as well. So here you can see it's much easier. Like you have a Revit model, all you have to do is use our precast tool. Now these precast tools are generally at the end of your ribbon, so you probably may need to click onto that arrow keys to expand. And here you have the split, fabrication, reinforcement, and a configuration tab. Now under configuration is where you set how your precast should behave, what should be the span of each modules, what part size, what's lifter that you have to use, what type of snooze that you have to use, and for shop drawing, what type of template that you wanted to use. So all those presets are set under your configurations, under the configuration tab. So segment what should be the minimum maximum slab segments that you do, and once you have set that, click onto the split. It will automatically split with the set parameters that you have defined. So you can see the lifters being automatically added at the defined intervals that is taken care by our precast tool itself. And this, once it is done, you can really take this model to a detailed precast drawing, because now each elements works as an assembly. So what happens is you can click onto the create view, set the sheet template, and just say okay, it will create your plan, section, orthos, part list, material list, part schedules, and all the informations under your assembly output. So here you can see I'm bringing in the part list, I'm taking the material takeoff, and I'm taking all the drawings related to that particular slab into my sheet. Much easier. It's all been developed automatically from there, and I can generate my prefab sheets directly from there with all the informations that I required from there. So makes it much more easier to convert your design data to prefab and then take it to uh, to to fabrication. One of the things that I'm not showing right now is the CAM export. This is again very simple. It actually asks you to PXML on another output where you can just directly write a PXML file and take that file to a CNC machine. So what we are adding up on 20.1 is the Dynamo support for precast. We have created a Dynamo nodes directly for precast, like say for example wall opening reinforcement. Now you can define those under your Dynamo, and what it does is you select the wall openings, and what it will do is it will fit in the wall opening reinforcement directly onto that. So these nodes are available that you can use it from your Dynamo for Revit. So you can use those nodes and use on your daily usage if required. So quite handy and useful to do that. Now, apart from that, there are some quick, easy enhancements that I wanted to go through. So another one is multi-rebar annotation. Now, in this, if you have a model with reinforcement and you wanted to go multi-rebar annotation, now it not only just lists down the reinforcement but also can be taken as a reference to any other elements or adjoining element. So you can see here I'm taking the edge of that beam as a last reference. I can use that, so it not only just take the reinforcement. So here in this example again, I do a line, I take the reinforcement and the edge of the slab. So that's so all I need is an edge as well as a reinforcement, and it will work for me. So here you can see that reinforcement and an edge of that beam. Now it gives me the rebar annotations directly. So you don't have to add an additional dimension, standard dimensions to take the edge to rebar, but now you can, or a cover if you wanted to give a cover dimensions, so you can do it directly from multi rebar option. Now, multi-rebar annotations also support freeform rebars. So if you have done reinforcement using freeform rebars, like I showed you in Revit, now that will allow you to do annotations to a freeform rebars also. So now just simply select that, it will identify it as a rebar and do it. And similarly, if you're doing for ramp, it is again allowing you to do annotations for those for freeform rebars. So you just select that, you place the reinforcements and get your annotation tags right over there. And you can do it in any of these views. So not only just the plan and section, but also on the elevation where it is going on a separate line. So when you do a reinforcement, it aligns to that particular mod and it gives you the annotations right over there. So much easier to handle my annotations when I'm doing freeform rebars or large rebars. Uh, Rebars now supports model in place. Now, in case one of the examples which I'm showing you is if you have um staircase that you have completely designed from scratch using modeling space, you can do a reinforcements to that without any issue. So just select that. You will have the reinforcement option available for that, and you can place the rebars either by cutting the sections or using a freeform rebars like the one that I showed you, and then it will align and give you all the features that are required for a reinforcement to finally and adjust your drawing appropriately. A much easier tool that allows not only just the structural element but also model in place elements to do reinforcements. So that's a feature that has been added. Now, coming into a steel, there are certain additional enhancements on the steel connection. Yes, more and more steel connections have been added onto Revit. As you can see, from Advanced Steel and Revit have shared most of their steel connections, and one of the enhancements that we have done is steel connection propagation. What it does is, like, if you have done a steel connection, you can propagate that to rest of the similar connections automatically. So when you select a connection and say propagate connection, it will automatically identify similar connections where these connections can be used, and it will place them automatically. So if you have a large structure where you have similar connections, you can propagate these one and place it onto all. So in case if you do that, you can also go and edit it once. So if you change the type, you will see that type getting updated throughout the throughout the project. So it keeps makes it easy to use the same connection on multiple places if the project is having a same connection criteria. Now we also have something called steel connection grouping. So when you are working on steel, so you will have a steel connection done on one of these plates. You can group them together into one single group. So what it allows us, like, if you have say 2 or 3 similar connections, you can group them together. So what happens is you can make the one as a primary. So if you change one of this property for that, it will automatically update and reflect the rest of the groups as well. So if you say, for example, here I duplicate the 2 bolt into a 1 bolt, and I change that property and update that, you will see all the elements on that particular group will update and reflect in my model. So much easier for me to work out group certain connections together, so that if I change them into my properties, I can make that changes reflect on rest of them immediately with my properties. So that's a added feature. So now let's take the tagging and dimensioning of the steel element. Now this is something that has been a small enhancements, like where you have steel openings and circles and boards. You can dimension it from it can give you a bolt center line as a snap, which can allow you to give you center line of those bolts. And if you have a if you want to dimension the radius or dia of that opening, it can help you give the center line and the dia of that much. It's kind of an added features that has been added up over here. Now, irrespective of all the colors, sorry, the visibility, whether you're using a shade or a wireframe, you can do tagging for all the welds and place it on your sheet as well. So yeah, another one is a quick update on the processing part. So when we have a steel connection and we do some edit on that, you will see earlier 2009, 18 and 19, it used to process and takes a lot of time on processing that change. But what you are going to see now is a small processing of circle that you see next to the filter tab bottom down there, that it does the calculation on the background. So you have a view and a platform to continue working, whereas all the changes and processing will happen in the background. So you don't see Revit hanging up. So steel connections and changes that you generally do is now automatically updated or processed in the background. So it kind of helps us continue with our work, but at the same time the processing will all happen in the background part of it. So let's quickly go into the MEP enhancements that we have. So one of the major change is the MEP fabrication part. So now we have an ability to change and edit MEP fabrication model. So once we have a model, we have converted that into an MEP, we can do some changes. Say, for example, we can change the services, we can change the group directly in our Revit even after the fabrication part. So here in this example, you can see I have a supply, I can change it to return. So when I change that to into return, I can change the group. So you see the color automatically getting updated, and I can change from rectangle to circular or circular to rectangle. I can change the width or diam of that, and you can see it updates and it updates in the model. So it's kind of a added, so you don't have to do that change prior to fabrication. You can also do it at the time of doing the fabrication module as well. Now tag. So when you are placing electrical components like electrical panels, switches, we now have an ability to place elevation tags to the element. Now what it does is, like when I'm placing a electrical power panel, say for in this example, I define an elevation, say 3 feet, 2 feet, or a 5 feet. Now, while I'm doing a tag, I can bring the elevation tags onto that. So this was a bit of a challenge in 2019, but now elevation tags are now a part, elevations are a part of now the electrical tags. So now if I want to have a filter, I can use the filter, say all the tags which are above 3 feet, show me and change the colors to red so that I identify in my whole drawing which all elements sorry, electrical panels are kept at 3 feet elevation. So I select that, and there you can see I have an elevation level. I change which is greater than 2 feet, apply, okay, and make them see in red thick color. So apply OK. Now you can see in the entire drawing I can really see which all electrical panels are at 3 feet level and all. So useful tips. And also, like now for electrical home run wiring improvement, you can define custom home runs arrow styles onto that, and you can also define optional wire tick marks in your electrical drawings as well. And lastly, but not the least, what we have is Revit extensions for fabrication export, where the whole model can be taken into CAD MEP, STMEP, or CAMCAD, where you can do fabrication and detailing. That will be a completely different topic, where how you can take that. We'll take it on a separate uh, session altogether. So with this, I have come to an end of my presentation, and these are some of the resources that you can use that I would strongly suggest you subscribe to our Autodesk channel on YouTube, which kind of gives you videos and new features updates time to time. And I also suggest you go and see our Autodesk App Store, which has many apps which you can use to customize your Revit to your need. So with this, I have come to an end of this presentation. I will open up for any questions if you have. So you can use the chat to ask any questions. Okay, so I see some of the questions. So okay, so could you please share this PDF to us? Yes, this entire presentation that we have done now is recorded and it will be shared later to all the attendees. So could you please repeat base point and survey point? Okay, I'm sorry because I was not following chat when I was presenting. I couldn't read that, but base points and survey points are something that every project has. So if in case you're using any files as a reference in your main project file, you can review or expose the linked files base point and survey point. So it's very handy to cross check whether the both the projects which you're referencing have the similar base point or survey point, or they are really way apart. And it also helps you to acquire coordinate from a linked file and make sure the one that you are working is exactly the one that you are referring with. So kind of helps us do that. So do share us if you wanted to understand more on that. We can do a separate call or a session with you. We can take these points in detail, how the base and survey points works in Revit. Yeah, there is a question. Precast tool is not supporting irregular slab profile. Irregular slab profile, I believe no. If it is a rectangle, yes. It divides that into a specific tab, but even I need to check. I can check that and let you know if I have an irregular shape slab profile, if it can be converted into a precast. There is a request, kindly cover some examples in MEP section. Okay, definitely. So I believe this request is from Mr. Kamlesh Shetty. So if you can pass on your contacts to us, we can reach back to you and do a separate session on MEP section. So MEP is a vast topic within Revit. So the one that you are interested, if you can let us know, we can have a detailed session for you. Still, we do not have a wiring to show in 3D. No, not yet currently. So 3D wiring is completely on a 2D platform. But what we have added is when you work on a wiring uh, when you set up a wiring for a specific circuit, it gives you a total wiring length, which is mostly required. So one more thing is how Revit does, like even though the wiring is a 2D platform, but the wiring length is a three-dimensional calculation. So from the source, say a panel to a switch to the electrical point, it takes the X, Y, and Z directions. So the shortest X, shortest Y, and shortest Z direction. So that's a combination of all three, and this is how it gives you the total length of the wire. But probably if you want, we can have this in a detailed discussion later on. What will be the size of add rebar? What will be the size of I add rebar on the model? Or is there an option? Shall we do rebar in a linked file? I believe you're asking how much it will impact the size of the file, or yeah. So rebar does not directly increase the size of the file, but it makes the file complex. I agree to that. So it makes the file like it kind of decreases, or I would say impact the performance of that particular file. But when we're working on rebar, I'll always recommend to work on the coarse mode rather than going on to fine mode. So coarse mode will just give it a line, and while working, I'll always recommend you work on a scope box or a kind of a smaller area which you are detailing, so that the view is much faster and easier to handle. uh, a rebar on a linked file is not recommended, but it is mostly better to do it on the main file. Overlap of rebar between connection, is that possible? So currently, lap length, if you're asking, it's available through Dynamo. I haven't shown that example, but it is available through Dynamo or some of the apps which are available on our app store. Like there are some tools like Sophistic which can do that, but with Dynamo you can do a lap length programming that will help you do the lab, but we have something called couplers, rebar couplers. So that's already been added in our Revit. So there is a question: does the import PDF available in through API? I'm not sure. So this, I need to get help from our ADN team. So does the PDF available through API? I am not sure, sorry, but I can get you some answer. So if you can pass on your information to us, I'll get this information from our Autodesk development team and provide you an update. What is the benefit of project internal point, which had been added in 2020? Could you be a little bit more specific? We have project base point and we have survey point. So there is a question, MEP portion was very less, I expect more. So yes, we can do a detailed MEP presentation specifically if you are looking. So do let us know which part you wanted to focus, like HVAC, electrical, plumbing. We can do a detailed session. For this particular session, I only picked up the topics which were new, which were just recently added. So is there a change coming in plumbing? Uh, Plumbing, no, not at this moment, but we had some update on 2019 uh, where we have few updates, but I have not covered that because it was covered on last webinar. So this 2020, there are not much update on the plumbing side. When can we expect schedule to excel with formatting and style? When can we expect schedule to excel and formatting and style? So do you mean that export to schedule and bring that schedule back in Revit? If that is the case, it is available, so you can export your schedule to Excel and even do some changes on Excel and bring it back into Revit, including the element properties for that matter, like type properties can be edited. There are certain apps for that in our App Store, or you can use Autodesk DB Connects to use that. You can either use Excel or Microsoft Access to do that. So I hope that is answered. So how we can manage the speed of fly mode? Hmm, not very sure. So there is a question, can I extract all elements from IFC file and convert into Revit? Most of the elements from IFCs will come, but IFC is a common platform, right? So a lot of data get uh, impacted. So not all the information, say from Revit, if I export, will go through IFC. Similarly, from any other resource, when you bring in, not all the properties from IFC will come in into Revit as well. So there is a, I'm working with bridge modeling. As you know, bridge longitudinal section is the main criteria of drawing. Do you help me regard that if you have any? Definitely, if you can give us your contact, I'll get in touch with you on the brick design module. Can Tekla structure IFC file be converted into Revit? Yes, you can bring Tekla. IFC is the only option right now to bring Tekla into Revit, but it does loses some property. So there is another request for sharing this. Yes, we will be sharing a recording for this presentation. It has been recorded. Can we extract rebar size and shape image in Excel? Yes, you can. So with every rebar, you have an option to attach the image and shape. So when you click onto any rebar on your instant property, you have something called image. So you can attach an image, it stores in our image library, and when you put that under your schedule, it will show you the image under your schedule. So it comes like a bar bending schedule exactly with your bar size, bar shape, and other information. So there is a request for doing a detailed session on MEP. There is a detailed session on MEP which is coming, I believe, in the month end. So please stay tuned. I believe the communication is already out. If you have not, we will be resending that again. So you can register for that and attend that session. There's a question: can we work out an overall head transmission line model in Revit? Yes, we can. We can do that. Can we change? Can I know about the Sophistic tool for Rebar? If you go into our app store and just type Sophistic uh, Rebar, it's a third-party tool. They have their web page and link, as well as some YouTube videos which explains what all things there. They have multiple apps on Rebar. You can select and see their videos to understand what capable softwares they have and different options that they have on their app. What is importance of travel path in live project? Uh, so travel path, what we have is with currently about how much time a person will take from point A to point B during the design. So while designing, it kind of helps us to really identify the movement and a path that a person will take. So the example that I gave is a nurse station to a patient room. So we can identify which areas are taking too much time for a nurse to reach over there. So that's a travel path option. Uh, so So I see there are a lot of questions coming in, and I have actually crossed 4, which is the time of this. So we will record all these questions, and I'll get back to you on this because I have crossed my presentation time. So what I will do is there are all these questions. I have my colleague Avinash with me. We'll copy this and take these questions one by one and connect it with you and take it further from here. So. Avinash, is that okay for now?
Yes, that's right, Ranjan.
Perfect. Thanks.
Perfect.
So before I end, there is a poll that we have to start. So there are a couple of questions which I want you to answer. So I'm putting it onto the poll screen. So if you can
So,
answer there, yeah.
hi, sorry to interrupt. So while you were taking up the question Q&A,
Uh,
I hosted the poll, so I got the
oh, you have
response.
already done.
If you have
Okay, okay, great, great,
the
great.
interest of
Okay,
time,
so oh, perfect, perfect. Thank you. So thank you for attending this session, and stay tuned for our recording session. We will submit all those who have attended this, and there are some follow-up webinars which are coming in specifically on BIM 360, MEP, advanced steels, and structure. So register to that, and and for register for that for these sessions. So I thank you all for coming and joining this session. I thank you and have a great day and stay safe. Thank you.